What's good, everybody, and welcome to another video. Today, we're going to go through the books that I read in April, and I know at the beginning of the month, I made a really crappy video about the book twos that I was going to read that was riddled with issues, and so I apologize if you actually did watch that one, and honestly, if you didn't, don't do that shit. My April plans did not go as planned, and so here's just what I actually read. I did read A Crimson Fire or The Crimson Fire by Abel Montero. I posted a video about that. I thought it was okay. There were some parts that intrigued me enough to maybe check out book two when he ends up launching it, but was overall average. It was trying to be something special, and I think it missed a couple of marks, and I just don't think it was for me at the moment. But like I said, it intrigued me enough to pick up book two. So I do think you should give it a try. It actually came out right at the end of April, so if you haven't snagged it, I'm not sure if it's on Kindle Unlimited, but if it is, listen, I'm saying check it out. Now, for the other books that I read, I did read Unbound, book two of the Songs of Chaos series, book two to Ascendant, and dude, this was completely unprecedented, the amount of love and happiness and awesomeness that I felt reading this book. It was basically like reading the Echo Saga last year over again. I think that's like the best way to say it. And I haven't shared with you guys everything that I felt about the Echo Saga because there's just so much there that I haven't been able to properly put into words or into a script for a video that I feel like it would give it justice. And I need to get over that so I can actually tell you guys about one of the greatest series that I've ever read in my life. But Unbound was amazing. Let me tell you my thoughts on it. So I knew that I was gonna like Unbound after how much I liked Ascendant, but it really took it up a notch. It was the same classic quest, classic fantasy feel that I wanted, but it added so much more, and it took away a couple of things that I maybe would have wanted. So what ended up happening at the end of Ascendant is that Holt and Ash got kind of a quest from the Life Elder to find the rest of the elders of the wild dragon fleets and convince them to aid in the efforts to thwart Thrall or Sovereign. Sovereign is the big bad dragon antagonist of this story who is controlling the Scourge and a lot of the negative things that are plaguing the land. Thrall, or Sovereign is how they know him. I just say Thrall because they do reveal to you, I believe in Unbound, that his actual dragon name was Thrall. But more on that later. That's actually a lot of this is going to be spoiler talk because it's hard to talk about a book two and a series without spoiling it. So just be prepared for a little bit of spoilers. And in a way to not talk about spoilers, I will talk about what I liked about the book from what we already know in book one. In book one, there's a character called Rake who didn't really show up much, but I really wanted more of him. His is the type of character that I absolutely love. It's the character that masks pain and any other hidden things with humor, and it's just a witty, humorous, optimistic type of person right up until you really get him talking about his feelings, and then he's just, all right, fine, I get it, it sucks type of person, right? So I love Rake, and what ends up happening is Holt and Ash go on this journey and they run into Rake, and Rake basically recruits them for a team he's putting together, a classic fantasy quest squad, in order to try and beat Sovereign, while Sovereign is recovering at his tower. And so in that way, Rake was like, well, you guys owe me for bringing back Broad and or bringing his body over and giving him to the Life Elder, and you guys owe me for XYZ things. And so they said, yeah, we do kind of owe you. So they went along with him, and he did also train them up because by this point, Holt and Ash are Ascendant level. But after Ascendant level is Champion, High Champion, Exalted Champion. After Exalted Champion is Lord, High Lord, Exalted Lord, Paragon. So there's so much progression to this shit that I eat that shit up. And so they're training with, what's his face? Rake, in order to become stronger. And as they become stronger, certain spells and abilities and stuff become easier, etc. He's teaching them techniques now. He's not just teaching them like, here's how you control your power. He's teaching them actual techniques to use in combat and things like that are going to further their growth into these next levels. And the progression part of it was amazing. Truly, it was amazing. Halt and Ash are growing at a rapid pace that I love to see. Their partnership with Rake, a genius scientist of a dragon, an old dragon trying to make amends, and a high lord dragon bond that whose mother or great grandmother owes Rake, also came in. So that's basically the quest that we have, and they're going off. That's all I'm going to say about them. About Talia and Pyra, I'm going to say that I started to really like their story arcs less, because for Talia, it's all about how is she balancing being a ruler, a queen, with being a writer, and having to balance the two is almost impossible. But her story arc gets so much more political than I personally like, that I thought it's not really for me, and I wasn't feeling it as much. Not to say it's bad, it's just I wasn't as engaged in hers as I was in Holt's. But some people might find that differently. You might find that differently. And then we get a third point of view this book, which is a really cool point of view. It's Osric Agravain, who is the writer bonded to Sovereign. And so we get to see his point of view and how, his thoughts, his behaviors, his life around Sovereign. So we get a lot more information about Sovereign himself and what that cult and that group of people is doing. I've grown to like Osric. I didn't care for his story arc at first, but after what happens towards the end of book 2, Unbound, I've come to really be interested in Osric, and I'm really rooting for him. But his story is much more of a spoiler than I actually want to admit, so we're gonna not talk about that. So Unbound for me, even better, I think, in most regards to Ascendant. Even better. I think if Talia's story arc was just a little bit better, and for me that would have probably been giving her a way to level up faster with Pyra, would have been truly amazing, but we just didn't get that. We just simply didn't get that for her. It made me upset, it really did, but I mean, she has to be a ruler. So basically the trade-off that Michael R. Miller is trying to show here is Holt and Ash are rapidly growing, but all they're doing is adventuring and putting themselves in life-endangering situations in order to force their growth even faster. Talia and Pyra don't have that. They don't even have time to train 24/7 like Holt and Ash do. And so their trade-off for growth is hopefully having a better time ruling and being a better queen and having better relations with the neighboring countries and things like that, kingdoms. So I was supposed to then move to a different book too, either Of Darkness and Light or Red Claw. Yeah, the immediate next day, I ended up opening Defiant, like 100%. So what ended up happening is I read Crimson Fire at the beginning of the year, but I'm a tax accountant, and so April 15th, for anybody who's not in the US, is the tax deadline is the first tax deadline of the year. And so I was working 60 to 70 hours for like 2 weeks leading up to that deadline. So I didn't read anything. The immediate day after, I was so burnt out with work, I sat on my couch, and for 3 days, I read Unbound in a day and a half. And the day I finished Unbound, 10 minutes later, I opened up Defiant and kept fucking going. Finished Defiant the next day as well. It was splendid. It was an amazing readathon for me, I swear to you. And Defiant was really good. There's a lot of things that happen in Defiant that I can't even bear to spoil, but Defiant solidified the Songs of Chaos series as of now my favorite series and reads of 2025. And that to also say it's only book 3 And there's 2 more books in this series that Michael R. Miller has planned. Book 4 coming up in September. Also in a fucking tax deadline. I'm telling you, bro, I have to read that book somehow, either on launch or very soon after launch, because I will not be able to control myself. And it's good. I can trust Michael R. Miller to deliver to me. I can trust him to not ruin this series for me. That has been proven to me. And so I absolutely love this series. Defiant, we see more of Holt and Ash adventuring and things like that. What I found interesting about the classic fantasy feel here is, yes, they're constantly thinking, we need to go to this place, to this elder to seek their aid. And they keep getting pulled on in side quests and things like that. And it even got to the point where one of the elders sent them on a quest to say, if you want my aid, go do this first, type shit. So a lot of like twists and curves are in their way, leading to their end goal. And even more than that, there's so many unfortunate things that happen in this book that made me think, wow, like how are they? It didn't feel forced, pigeonholed, anything like that. It just felt like it makes sense that it happened like this. There is no resolution yet. It just keeps getting grimmer and grimmer. There is something I want to say though. We in book 3, Michael R. Miller's formatting was amazing. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So in book 3, Defiant, he added in another set of POVs, the paragons of the world. And the paragons are the basically highest, most powerful beings of their element class in the Dragon Riders. And so we get the POV of all of most 3 of the paragons, I believe, 3 or 4 of the paragons. We get their POVs. One of them, the lightning paragon, the storm paragon, his story is interesting because what happened to Rake in terms of him becoming a half dragon, half man beast or whatever, it happened because he was trying to do something similar to what the storm paragon is doing now. That's all I'll say. And so that unfortunate thing happened to Rake. Now the storm paragon is trying this again. I can't tell you if it works or not, but I find it very interesting that I think Michael R. Miller is setting up kind of a meeting between the two of like, I'm thinking that the Storm Paragon is going to succeed where Rake failed, and they're going to meet. And the Storm Paragon's going to say, see what I did that you couldn't do? And Rake's going to be like, oh, my ego can't handle that. I got to figure that shit out ASAP. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really excited to see their meeting in the future. But no, a lot of the unfortunate things that's happened in this book were very unfortunate, and it definitely got me in my feels quite a bit. It was an amazing emotional ride, more than the others. I still will say Holt and Ash's POVs were my favorite. I enjoyed Rake's POV. I enjoyed Osric's POV. I did not as much enjoy Talia's POV still because it keeps going down that political route. Michael R. Miller's trying to veer it back into a Dragon Rider route, I can tell. But I'm losing interest in Talia, and it's not because of like them. It's because of I don't have intrigue into political themes in books. I really don't. So that's really where my issue is. I got on a massive tangent there, and I didn't even tell you about why the formatting of it is so good. So the formatting of this book is so good because Michael R. Miller at the beginning in the foreword, read the foreword and the afterwards, the prologues and the epilogues. Read everything in the books, people, please. The authors put them in there for a reason. It's to help you when you're reading the book sometimes. They're important. Read them, bitches. So in the foreword, Michael R. Miller had said, listen, due to how he thought the pacing needed to be in certain sections, he said, there might be times when there are two chapters of the same POVs back to back before switching POVs. And then, the switched POV might backtrack a little bit in terms of the timeline, but he said basically to keep the pacing and the suspense and the thrill and like the story going for certain POVs, he puts them back to back. I love that so much. I keep thinking about that in every other book that I read, because books after that I've read go from like, you know, male character, female character, they switch one to one. But Michael R. Miller said, no, this section for Holt needs to be this entire section for Holt. Same for Osric, Talia, Rake, any of the other POVs. Like, if there's 2 or 3 chapters back to back for one POV story, he's going to give that to you. And it pays off so well. It pays off so crazily well. I kid you not. Like, that is an amazing decision that Michael R. Miller made. And I really wish other authors did the same. I really wish other authors did the same. But yes, I think that's what really cemented my experience in the story, was that choice that he made for the formatting that made the experience of reading it that much better. Because, you know, a lot of times authors will do the little trick of they leave Holt's chapter on a cliffhanger, then they switch to Talia's chapter. You're like, oh God, what's happening with Holt? And now you have to switch to Talia's. You don't get that, like, that rush, that dopamine hit, that payoff, that reward of like, I'm feeling this thrill and suspense, and I have to wait another chapter, get through a chapter I don't care about to then know what happens. I sometimes don't like that. It doesn't work for me. It has the opposite effect for me. So Michael R. Miller switching that up for me, bro, breath of fresh air, amazing decision. That is enough glazing for now that I will do for this series, but I will say it is so worth you picking up. It is so amazingly worth you picking up. I kid you not. I cannot stop praising this book. But we now have to switch to a book and series that didn't hit me quite as much. It kind of went a bit downhill from here. So we have now peaked in the middle of this recording. Let's talk about the Dragonblood Assassin series. Back in January, I read Black Talon, and I told you about it. I said the book was cool. Overall, all vibes were cool. All vibes were crispy. We love Natissa's Whipblade. That's about it. Once again, don't go back and watch the beginning of the April video. I was wrong about a lot of things. So, Red Claw, which is book 2 of the Dragonblood Assassin series, starts off exactly where book 1 left off. And I actually messaged Andy about this. And I think I told you guys in January that I really disliked how abruptly book 1 ended, because it didn't feel like a natural ending point. It just feels like it was just like everything went to a black screen as soon as something happened, you know? But then book 2 immediately picks up exactly where book 1 left off, which I get in terms of a reader standpoint. You put one down and you open one back up, and it's the exact same thing, like from like 1 to 1. But in the event that if I, because I read one in January and now read one in April, there was time in between, I still didn't like it. It doesn't feel good in terms of reading an ending. But that's just something that I disagreed on with the author. But Andy was like explained his reasoning very well to me. My main complaint with Red Claw is there's a organization or some being behind all the bad things happening in this kingdom, and they're named the Red Claw. And I would think in the book called Red Claw, we'd find out who the Red Claw is. We don't find out who the Red Claw is. Nobody tells you who the Red Claw is. I don't know why it's called Red Claw, because I felt like the idea of the Red Claw wasn't as prevalent as maybe it was supposed to be. That's just my nitpicky thing. I'm that guy who nitpicks on titles. I will be honest, I am. Taramataru, I will never let you forget Dragon Rider, even though I will read the Tainted Khan at some point. I will never let you forget Dragon Rider. But back to Red Claw. Once again, really cool vibes. Really cool vibes. I really enjoyed the relationship between Natisse and Cullen as it grew in this book, because I think as individual characters, they're cool, they're dope, they're both headstrong, both cunning, both very smart, so they don't make dumb decisions like you see in a lot of like YA novels. No, because these are both adults who've seen shit, so they know exactly what they need to do, when they need to do it, how they need to do it, and I love that for them. So I really loved their bond as it grew. I loved the banter. The banter is a really good part of the story, in my opinion. I think it's one of its plus points. And a book that has banter really wins out for me, because if banter is part of your prose, you've already won over Entro. That's a slant rhyme for you guys. Where it didn't hook me in this book is It didn't feel like the story progressed that much further, but it did progress. But nothing really stood out to me that, oh my God, I can't. This is an amazing story plot line. This is an amazing reveal. This is an amazing thing that just happened. It was all very okay. Slightly worse than Black Talon, not by much, because it was still pretty cool and pretty decent. Now you would have think, okay, cool. All right, you finished Red Claw. Now you're moving on to book 2, of Darkness and Light, like you said you were going to do back in April, right? I opened up Silver Spines, which is book 3 of the Dragonblood Assassin series. Listen, I just had to finish these series, okay? I can't keep starting books and then reading the series such in like fragmented ways. I can't do that anymore. I was about to lose my fucking mind. So I started Silver Spines, which is book 3 of the Dragonblood Assassin series. And let's get into that. Now, it is amazing how Andy and Jamie did write the books in a way where all of them are pretty much at the same level of quality, plot intrigue, progression. Like they all read the same, which I think is really good. It makes you feel like your expectations are rewarded throughout the book as a reader. You know, I expect the characters behave this way because they've behaved this way thus far. I expect the plot to move in this way because it's moved in this way so far. I expect that the action scenes to be presented in such a way because they've been presented in such a way so far. At the beginning of the book, I once again went back and messaged Andy and yelled at him because I almost thought he off-screen killed a character that we were like going back to meet, and he didn't. But what he said was, no, I would save that. That character's death is saved for a really gut-wrenching, like painful time. So he'd already told me that, okay, this character is going to die, just not in. I wouldn't off-screen them. So in my head, starting in book 3, I was like, okay, cool. I'm waiting for moments when this character is going to die. That's going to come up soon here in a second. Now, I'm not sure if it was the book itself or if it was me running away from my day job that really pushed me into the book, but I was really hooked into this book specifically, Silver Spines, because it's when a lot of the lore and the history really opens up about the story. We get a lot of history into Cullen and Umbrus and the Twilight Realm. We get a lot of history into some of the other characters like Uncle Ronan and Mammy Tess. We get a lot of history into like their stories. We get a lot of history into like the Emperor. Not as much history in terms of other people, but those are the main people we get history in, and it's actually really cool, really interesting. I think that once again, at the rate that Cullen and Natis's like bond is growing was at first a little bit jarring for me because I was like, why are they getting so like lovey-dovey and together so quickly? But I think it's more so it was initially forced proximity that fed then into similar experiences, so shared experiences that fed into understanding between the two of them. And so I think those things really led them to growing together and growing towards each other more quickly, which I thought was an interesting touch this time around. And it's kind of, once again, what I would expect, even though it was initially jarring. I thought that makes sense. It kind of does make sense how it's progressing, but it also, like, their pacing is pretty quick in these books. It's really not that slow. Maybe some moments are slow, but the overall pacing of the story is pretty quick. I will say, though, this was also the book that by the time I got to, like, this book and I really wanted to, shove the plot into my brain holes, I kept skipping a lot of walls of like introspective text of like this person's thinking this and seeing this, but it wasn't dialogue, it wasn't action, it didn't feel like plot progression, it was more like introspective thoughts and stuff and rumination. I was like, next. Oh, dialogue. Next. Oh, action. Next. So that's on me. Maybe that colored how I thought about the book, and I didn't let myself sink in as much. I skipped almost an entire chapter of Natis literally walking into a room of two people who were killed previously in the story, and just like her emotions and thoughts as she was like going through there because she hadn't stepped into there since then. I told Andy, I was like, yeah, I skipped that entire chapter. That bitch was at the beginning. I skipped that entire chapter. I did not want that. My friend Mezzi is right. I don't do emotional shit. I'm here for the raw action, and that's about it. But once again, he did end the book as abruptly as all of them had ended. And I did try to stop here. I really did. I tried to stop here and go read Of Darkness and Light by Ryan Cahill. But then I picked up Golden Flames, yes sir, because I just needed to finish the series at that point. I thought, why leave it at a one book left? Just finish the series ours, and you can talk about the series as a whole at that point, instead of leaving yourself also on a cliffhanger. So I read Golden Flames, and I have to tell you, I feel like this is the worst book of the four. I feel like it really drops off, and I did not like the ending. I'm sorry that I'm starting off what I'm saying by saying this and not leading you up to it, but I think I have to preface what I'm going to say with the ending was very annoying to me. It was really, I don't want to say bad, but it felt very forced and sudden. And last but not least, I still think it's a cool series that you should try and read. I was talking to my buddy Tim on our weekly book club lives over on TikTok about how I liked the book, right? I liked this. I think the series is cool, and even though it didn't end the way I liked it, I still recommend it to people, because just because I didn't like it doesn't mean you won't. But I do have to tell you that I didn't like it. Therefore, you can either make a decision on whether you do or don't want to read it. Golden Flames basically is the ending of this story, and the first 50% of it was actually still really good, but the last 50% drug on so much longer than it should have, because I genuinely feel like all of the stuff that Andy and Jamie had put into the story, they were trying to figure out how to tie up. And so the last 50% of the book, I had to force myself through. I'm like, okay, here's this massive war arc. This is how it ends, right? Nope. Something happens. This has to be how it ends, right? Nope. This fucking god drowning has to be how it ends, right? Nope. This is how it ends. Actually, this is how it ends, all the way down here, in my opinion. I did let Andy know. I was like, listen, I don't like how it ended. He understood. The choices that he and Jamie made were their own choices. But I told him I did not like it. I did not like how it ended. I very much love and respect Andy Pelican right now because of how open he is just to hearing comments about the book, because I wasn't necessarily mincing my words. I said, do I get how it ended? Yes. Do I like it? No. Do I understand it? Yes. Am I still going to yell about it? Yes. Am I going to tag you in the post? No. He's like, not tag me in any way. And so I posted about me doing a mini crash out at the end of the book as to how it ended. I would highly recommend you go on to TikTok to see how that happened. There was something new in Golden Flames that I really want to talk about, and I absolutely love this. So we learned from book 1, book 2-ish, mainly book 1, that there was my humidifier went off. Well, there go my cozy vibes. We learned that the dragon that had burned the embers earlier, in their past, was Golgoth, the Queen of Embers. Around that time, before or after, a different dragon that had burned a different section of the kingdom and had killed a lot of people, was Shahid Zai. And Shahid Zai was Golgoth's mate, the king of the embers. But after Shahid Zai did what he did, whether it was at his own volition or whatever happened, Golgoth killed Shahid Zai. In a way. So hearing Golgoth talk about Shahid Zai in the end of this book because of certain things that happen, it really, really touched my heart in a way that I didn't expect to, because even Golgoth and Shahid Zai were, or even Golgoth was saying that even though I had to, I'm going to start paraphrasing here because I don't know the exact quotes, but she basically said, even though I had to put him down, he is still my eternal love, my eternal mate. Our flames will always burn brightly together, and I will always have a flame inside of me burning for him. And I truly loved the depiction of their bond that Andy and Jamie did. I think they did that very fucking well. I'm going to say it. I think Golgoth and Shahid Zai are a better dragon bond than Tarn and Skyle. I'm going to say it. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to say it. I'm going to put it out there. You have to do with it what you will. But I think they're better. There's a lot going on in this series that obviously I don't want to spoil it, but I do want to leave you with a summarized thoughts of This is a very cool series. It has an intriguing plot line, genuinely lovable and engaging characters, a really witty and humorous dialogue scheme mixed with, um, serious and somber dialogue schemes as well. That is a very enjoyable read nonetheless. I think you will genuinely enjoy your time in this book, in this series. I don't know how this series is in compared to his Darkblade Assassin series, but I know people fucking love that series. And so this has still left me intrigued to read his Andy Peliquin's Darkblade Assassin series. Because you would think after the ending being the mess that it was, I would be turned off from the entire story. The answer is no. I'm still pretty engaged in wanting to continue reading his books and his other series and stuff, which I think I'll get to at some point in time. Maybe not this year, maybe next year, who knows. So those are my thoughts about all the books that I read in April. Quite a few. If you look back at it, I was only supposed to read 5, and I ended up reading 6. Gang gang. Um, I also tried to read. I genuinely tried to read Ruthless Vows, and I could not get through it. My brain was not wanting the prose of Rebecca Ross this month. I just couldn't handle it with how tired my brain was. At some point, we'll pick Ruthless Vows back up and finish that duology. So I hope you guys did enjoy that video of what I thought about the books that I read in April. Let me know if you're interested in reading any of these books. Feel free to DM me what you think about them when you do read them, or if you have any questions, etc. Genuinely join the Discord down below, the free Discord. We are just a group of readers, and some of them in there are also authors. So if you're an aspiring author, definitely come in there and chat with other authors as well. We are starting a book club here soon, either at the end of May or starting in June. And so if you want to join a book club, and like a no pressure type of book club, definitely come through. We try and read a lot of like indie books, not a lot. So we can also connect with the authors and things like that as well. And a lot of these people just really know how to talk about books. And I like that. I like that a lot about this group. They know how to talk about books. They don't just say surface level things. We get deep in these conversations. So if you're looking for deep conversations about books, definitely join the Discord. This video is also a little bit late because I had certain like upload timing differences. But if you want to know what I'm planning to read in May, definitely go check that video out. It is a brief-ish one, but I'm really excited for the books that I'm reading in May as well. If you did enjoy the video, consider leaving a like, comment, or subscribing. If you're new, consider sending this video to somebody who would enjoy it. That's the best way to help me reach other readers potentially. And if you have any ideas on what I can do to improve what I say about books, how I talk about books, the settings, the videos, etc., 100% let me know. I'm open to all thoughts. I just want to make this a great experience for you guys in each video. And if you have any video ideas, let me know. We can chat. We can talk about it. You and me, we can talk about it. That being said, I'll catch you guys later. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.